when the Most High talks about day and night in 3 12-hour cycles, that means it has to be 3 days. But we're gonna get deeper into it and explain very thoroughly the timeline and exactly what the Most High meant by it. But I'm gonna start off with just like I was talking about, 12 hours in a day, and I'm gonna get a precept for that. It'd be John 11:9-10. And Yahushua answered, "Are there not 12 hours in a day? If any man walk in the day and stumble not, it's because he seeneth the light from this world. But if a man walketh in the night, he stumbleth because there is no light in him." So again, right there, Yahushua is saying there's 12 hours in a day, confirming what I just said earlier. So let's get some more, because the Most High calls the light light, and he calls the darkness night. Now I'm gonna jump around a little bit. I'm not gonna read, but I'm coming from Genesis 1:4-13, but I'm gonna jump around. Start at 4. And God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. So that's where you get that night and day aspect. That's why there's 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night. And God called the light day, and he called the darkness dark. He called the darkness night, and the evening and the morning first day. And God said, let it be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let us divide the waters from the waters. So I'm gonna jump down. We jump down to 13. And the evening and the morning were the third day. So boom again. So just to give you an idea, is right here. The Most High made the world in basically 6 days, and he rested on the 7th. So that's letting you know that even he goes by the same hours and periods of the earth. 12 hours of daylight, then 12 hours of darkness. And he calls one day, he calls one night. So right here in Genesis 1:4-13, just give you a breakdown of time and scale and how the Most High looks at it. And so jumping back to the resurrection, right there, if we have this logic and we have the Most High saying, and we have Yahushua confirming it. So if we do the math right, just like I said, 12 hours in a day, 12 hours at night, 12 times 6, that's 72. That's 3 days. That's 3 whole days. So if he was crucified, on that Friday, there's no way he could have came on Sunday. That's not adding up the hours. Do people understand the hours don't add up properly? So even though you may have a whole ceremony on that Sunday, that physically, from what the Bible describes, that the hours and the math do not add up. And we'll get into even deeper, because there were certain high holy days and Sabbaths going on during this period of time that even solidifies it even more. But I'm gonna let Brother Darren jump on that.
All right, so I'm gonna touch on 2 points on this one. I'm in John, the 2nd chapter, and I'm gonna read 19-21. So 2 points that I'm gonna touch on. I'm gonna touch on the temple, and I'm gonna touch on, the 3 days and things like that. So this John 2nd chapter, verse 19. Yahushua answered and said unto them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days? But he spake of the temple of his body. Simple as that. He told you, your temple is your body. So that's why when people say, oh, we wait for, Yahweh to build a third temple. Well, the third temple is his people. Like you said, like it reads in Joel, the 2nd chapter, he says, I will dwell in the midst of Israel, and none, and my people should never be ashamed. He's talking about his people. So Paul goes into more detail on that one too. So he's talking about his temple. So if he said he would destroy this temple and rebuild it in 3 days, he's giving you hints about resurrection, right? So to touch on that again, I'm going to jump to Matthew when he makes it known and clear. I'm going to read Matthew 27 and verse 63. Yep. And it says, saying, "Sir, we remember that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again." So he's telling you right there that he's going to rise in 3 days, right? So if you read Mark 8:31, all right, so most of the chapters we're just going to be dwelling in the beginning of the New Testament,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read Mark. I'm in chapter 8, and I'm reading verse 31. And it says, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and of the chief priests and scribes and be killed. And after 3 days, rise again. So he's letting you know that, again, he's going to rise in 3 days. And now we're going to go more in depth on the time and the things like that when they talk about the certain hours. And I'm going to let Brother Paris talk about that one.
Exactly. So let me get to that. So basically, he was on the stake and he died, and it gives you a certain time. It says the 9th hour, and if we look up what the meaning of the 9th hour means, that means 3 o'clock afternoon time, the 9th hour of the day. For people who don't understand what that means, so when the sun rises, you count 9 hours, and then that's 3 p.m. That's how we got that, just so people understand that. So I'm gonna touch into Matthew 27 verses 46 through 50, because that's where we got that term, the 9th hour. So 46, and about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried without a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani? That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? 47. Some of them that stood here, when they heard that, and said, this man called Elias, for Elias. But straightway one of them ran and took a sponge and filled it with vinegar and put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink. The rest said, let it be. Let us see whether Elias will come and save him. 50. Yahushua, when he cried again with a loud voice, yelled up the ghost.
Yielded up the ghost.
Oh, yielded up the ghost. Sorry. Salaki. Yielded up the ghost. So basically, right then and there, yielded up the ghost just means that his soul returned. His returned to sit on the right hand side of Yahweh. That's all that means. Yielded up his soul means gave it up to the Most High, where it came from. So again, right there in verse 46, it's letting us know that around the time that he was on the stake was 9th hour.
So it had to be 6 a.m. When the sun rose. 6 a.m.
Yeah, 6 a.m. when the sun rose. So yeah, basically, just like I was explaining it earlier, is when the first time you see the sunrise, you count 9 hours up until then. That's the time that they're talking about when it pertains to 9th hour, or when you say the 5th hour, the 12th hour, that would be pertaining to the day. So that just give you a little guideline of like letting you know the timing portion behind it. So I'm gonna jump down to Luke 33 and 44, and so this will give you another little understanding of the timeline. So I'm gonna jump to 23 and 44, and it was about the 6th hour. So this is 6 hours counted into daytime. That there was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. So there was darkness from the 6th hour to the 9th hour. That doesn't mean it was dark outside. That doesn't mean it was darkness. So that means it was supposed to be light. Context clues. So 45, and the sun was darkened. So again, it was supposed to be sunny. So we know this is daytime, not nighttime. And the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. It makes a reference to the 6 hours, letting you know it was 6 hours after sunrise or noon. And just like I said earlier, that would make it 3 hours. That would make it 3 o'clock. And all these events, they occurred before the Sabbath. So this lets you know again that this was during the preparation of the Sabbath. So all this occurred before the Sabbath. So this is another time letting you know about the days. So okay, he died before the Sabbath, in preparation before the Sabbath. So again, so keep track of this timeline as we're breaking it down. And I'm gonna let you get into. Yeah, I'm gonna let Brother Darren jump into the next portion.
All right, so the certain events that occurred, these were the day before the Sabbath. You know, the day they call preparation, right? So that's what 62 is talking about. Now, the next day that followed the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate. So he's just talking about the preparation, which it'll make sense when we keep going. So I'm gonna jump to John because I don't want to give it away.
yeah. I wasn't trying to give it all up right there.
Nah, I was gonna put it in a way that if I explain what day it was, then people would be like, oh, but I'm gonna let it build. All right, so I'm gonna jump to John, the 19th chapter, and I'm gonna read verse 42, and it says, "There lay they Yahweh Shai, therefore, because of the Jews' preparation day, for the sepulchre was nigh at hand." So, so what he's talking about is the preparation day, right? So the Jewish burial law, which is in John 19 and 31, which I go up. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for that Sabbath day was an high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So it was the day before the Sabbath, because on the day of Sabbath you can't do any. You gotta rest. You can't do any work or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So according to our laws, they had to prepare him before the Sabbath, right?
Exactly.
So I'm gonna jump to Luke. I'm gonna jump to Luke 23.
46.
Yeah, 23 and 46. All right, and it says, "And when Yahushua had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I command my spirit, and having thus he gave up the ghost." Which is explaining this also, like he said before, it explained how he died shortly after 3 o'clock. So he would have had to be buried soon after, prior to the sunset, because you understand when sunset hits, that's a whole new day.
And that would be the Sabbath.
Right,
So
which
they
people
couldn't
don't
let the
understand.
sun set when he died. So again, I just wanted to point that out. So that's letting you know that, hey, they had to do this before the sun even set.
Exactly. So a lot of people have to understand the calendar, right? So the Sabbath, it changes. It's not always on a certain day, but a lot of us are like split in half on that one, things like that. But the day moves. So if you go back to the Hebrew calendar, which you're gonna have to go all the way back and things like that, and to understand the calendar, we move by the Gregorian calendar, because you gotta remember, in Rome, the Greeks, they had a period where it was 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
It threw off the whole calendar, so it was hard for you to take track of it. You got to remember, when they were in the wilderness, they didn't have no calendar and things like that. They went by the moon. So when they got the understanding of the moon, they understood the Sabbath and things like that. So that's how you got to look at it. It wasn't out on a Sunday or anything like that. I'll explain that at the end, but I'm gonna let Brother Paris go more in depth on the actual crucifixion.
So one thing I want to touch on, and this is something that a lot of people get misconstrued or might get mixed up, is that it's very important to read from the 1611 King James Version. And though it might be a little hard English to read, and it might not be as smooth as if you read it in NIV, we have to read in 1611 KJV, because there are certain things that they take out and they will remove, because they know people don't like to read 1611 KJV, because they know that is the original text, and it's that old folk English that's the closest to Hebrew, because this English now is basically Babel. It doesn't mimic the same English that they written in, King James wrote in, translated in. And basically, just like many Christians, they just like that idea of when they see the crucifixion, they think of 3 crosses sitting side by side of each other. When that's not even the case. There was never, and if you actually go look this up in actual records and not just look up books that's been publicized by people that wear small hats and such, look at actual Roman records, they never crucified anybody. Not on an actual cross and tree. There's not a documented record of them actually doing that. And people have made a long, drawn-out lie. And that cross is nothing but a false idol worship. That's nothing but Osiris. That's what a lot of people got to understand. That's what originated. It originates from Babylon. All they did was they just tweaked it a little bit and made it change. And now they say it's the cross from the Roman Catholic Church, which the Rome killed Christ, or Yahweh Shai. So that's
Right.
just give you a little.
I think that's in Ezekiel when they talk about it. Hold on. I'll see if I can find it. When he talks about Tammuz. Yeah, he talks about it at Tammuz.
You talking about the women weeping?
Yeah, you can read the whole chapter of Ezekiel 8, or if you read Ezekiel 8:13 through 18, it talks about the mourners of Tammuz and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you go ahead, bro.
But yeah, just like Brother Dan was saying, and a lot of people get that mixed up, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to worship that idol of that cross and not really get back into the story of Yahweh Shai, because they want you to get deterred from anything, from learning the truth about what's really going on in the book. That's why they have all these symbols and signs to distract you. So, and this like I want people to read Acts 5:30, but I want you to read it in 3 different versions. First, KJV 16:11. Then I want you to read it in NIV, and then I want you to read it in American. You can do either American, New American, or you can do the Sefer Bible. But I want you to look up this verse in three different versions and understand why they changed it and what they did to it. So Acts 5:30. The God of our fathers raised up Yahushua, whom ye slew and hanged on a tree. So you see this right here?
Go ahead.
You good?
Yeah, my nephew was calling me.
Oh, okay. So basically right here, so it said, so I'm going to read that again, Acts 5:30. The God of our fathers raised up Yahushua, who you slew and hanged on a tree. So right there, I'm reading straight from the K1611 KJV, and this is a Bible app. I'm not even actually, this is a straight Bible app I'm reading out of. So people have just been, they had the veil over their eyes, and they haven't really realized that they want you to get in that cross worship because that is Tammuz. And people don't even understand that it talks about Tammuz in the Bible, just like it said in Ezekiel. So we have to get that understanding, and we have to get the etymology of words, just like we were talking about earlier, and understand what each word means and what it pertains to.
You do the research.
Exactly. Thorough research. Everybody should be doing a thorough research on everything we say. You shouldn't just take everything we say as face value. You should be looking it up too. So I'm gonna jump down to, and this I just want to jump that out of the way to get that out of the way. So I'm gonna jump down to the crucifixion and talk about the kind of the timeline around that, and that the crucifixion occurred basically what Brother Darren kind of gave it away at what Sabbath? Like what Sabbath was this? Because we say it's a high Sabbath. What Sabbath was this? So basically, I'm gonna get that from John 19 and 14, and it was the preparation of the Passover. So not just any Sabbath. This was the Passover. We already know what the Passover was. I'll get into more of that later. But about the 6th hour, again, like I said, at 3 o'clock, he said unto the Jews, "Behold your king." So basically, he's talking about Yahushua. This is when he had yielded his spirit up to the Yahweh in return. And just like we were talking about earlier, he had cried out. So this is letting you know that, okay, so he died the day before Passover, the first day of Passover. So everybody got that out of the way. So they couldn't do any work they couldn't do any work that day after sundown. So they had to go ahead and get him buried and put away before then. And then they had the Passover. And everybody understand the Passover goes on for a whole week. Everybody understand? So I'm gonna jump down to John 19 to 31, and in preparation of the Passover, it mentions a high day, and a high day just means that this is a basically this is the start of a new moon. That's what a high day is. So just like I think the next new moon is July 20th.
20th and the 21st.
Yeah, the 20th and the 21st. So that would be another high day. That would be a high holy day. So basically, that's just the same thing what they're talking about. So John 19:31. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day, for the Sabbath day was an high day, besought Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. So just like Brother Dan read this before, this is letting you know that the Sabbath day was a high day, that this was a mark of a new month, the Passover. And so I'm going to get that again, Matthew 26:2, which just confirms again what we're talking about. Christ, or Yahushua, was crucified during the Passover. So Matthew 26:2, Salakian, you know that after 2 days in the feast of the Passover, that the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. So boom, right there, tells you again. So people should understand the Passover went over multiple days, and that he was crucified on the 2nd day of the Passover. So let's get more into this. And people want to understand the Passover, and people don't really have a background information. You can read Exodus 12. I won't read through that, but we have handouts and guides about Exodus and about the Passover and how you celebrate all that. So if you want to know that, it'll be in the description link, and I'll let Brother Darren take it from here.
Oh, I mean, to touch on that one, like he was saying about the original Passover, we go by the moon, right? That's
Go
literally how
ahead.
you're
Yeah.
supposed to do your that's how you do your high holy days. You go by the moon and things like that. So for you to understand this part, you got to understand that according to the Hebrew calendar, right? The year Hamashiach was crucified, the Passover occurred on a Wednesday, right? Meaning the annual Sabbath had to be on a Thursday. Weekly Sabbath is always on a Saturday, which, people do differently and things like that. So which occurred 2 days afterwards. So you got to pay attention to the days and understand the Sabbath and things like that. That's just to go more in depth, like I was talking about with the calendar and things like that. So I'm going to jump to John verse 20, and I'm going to read, I'm going to read John 20 and 1. I really could have read it. What's it called? But it's straight. All right.
Oh yeah.
20 and 1. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. So when people say the first day of the week, they automatically think it's Sunday.
Yep.
It's not. Like I said, we go by the moon. So whatever the moon falls on, or the high Sabbath, that is the first of the week. It goes by the moon. When people automatically assume it's Sunday, not how it works. Like I said, we go by a Gregorian calendar. So it's all. You can read more about it in Mark 16 and 2, and you look at it in Luke 24 and 1. So it is early, on this one, Sunday morning, and still dark. The angel stated that he is not here but risen, right? So on this specifically one, it might have did fall on Sunday, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of people got to understand the days switch too. Like I said, our Sabbath, the way we celebrate ours fall on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, right? So ours is Saturday and Sunday. So when the new moon comes around, it's going to be Monday and Tuesday. It's not going to be Sunday. But
Exactly.
it will happen in this one. It fell on Sunday because people don't understand the Sabbath and things like that. So I'm going to read Luke 24 and 6. I got you, Salakia. I'll be moving like I don't know what's going on. All right. 24 and 6. 24 and 1. And it says, now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came into the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. Right? And they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre, and they entered in and found not the body of Lord Yahweh Shai. And it came to pass that they were much perplexed thereabout. Behold, 2 men stood by them in shining garments, as they were afraid, and bowed down their faces to the earth. And they said unto them, why seek ye the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee. So he's telling you he was already gone. He's not saying, oh, come on in. He rising up right now. No, risen. Past tense. He already rose.
Context clues.
Gone. So he had to be gone since late afternoon Saturday if you push him to that point. He was already going, though, which people not understanding. So basically, Christ died on the late afternoon of a Wednesday on the Passover. And he was resurrected 3 days later on the afternoon of that very next Saturday. You see what I'm saying? They came and checked on him on Sunday. But you got to understand, 3 days. So Wednesday to Saturday, what's it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, you can't count Wednesday because he died at 3.
Exactly.
So you can't count that day.
Exactly.
I don't know where people get that mixed up at.
So people got to understand, it's not Sunday, right? So people got to understand he died, he was already up, that Saturday. Yeah. So Sunday, people you got to remember, we go by the moon. We don't go by this calendar. We go by the moon. So a lot of people think we follow, Easter and things like that. Let me tell you something. Easter is a pagan holiday, just like everything else. The easiest way for me to explain to people that's not in the truth. If it's not written in Leviticus 23, we don't follow it.
Exactly.
I don't care what the government says, none of this. The easiest thing
Easter is Ishtar. We don't do that.
Right, exactly. If the government says, oh, Juneteenth is this and that, whenever the government gives something away willingly, it's bullshit. 9 times out of 10. They're not going to just up so happen to give away stuff. So what you got to understand is, if it's not in Leviticus 23, we don't follow. All right. So like you said, Easter comes from Ishtar, which is the mother of Nimrod, which also became, his wife.
Yeah.
It says already. But you got to understand, what she told the people is that she came from a moon egg, a space egg off the moon and crashed into the Euphrates. Mm-hmm. That's where you get the eggs from. When you're picking eggs and things like that, and they involved the Jesus because that's just the
It's
same theory from paganism, which was started by Ham, which comes from, they call
Cush,
that's Tammuz.
Nimrod.
Exactly. So that cross is actually a T. It's for Tammuz. And we got
And that cross is really an ankh, and an ankh is really just a
rebirth.
rebirth. It's
But
just basically rebirth of the vaginal. It's basically vaginal worship. Exactly. And I got a picture of it on my Instagram. Y'all done seen it. I hit it. I tag it in here too.
Exactly. And I got a video that I did. If you look on our page, it started like Corinthians 2:11. I break down monotheism and polytheism. So the only way you will get the understanding and the truth of, the Savior and things like that, you have to learn from a Hebrew Israelite. Think about it. If Christianity was created 1 AD, after the death of the Hamashiach, and even on top of that, if they killed the Hamashiach, they know nothing about him. Pilate didn't know nothing about him, but the things he heard, he produced and his miracles and things like that. They cannot tell you about your Savior if they killed him. Do you get what I'm saying? And on top of that, if you read deep into it, I sent a picture to it. It tells you, even the own Edomites tell you that modern Jewry is of the Edomites, right? So everything they do that the small hats do, they do the opposite of what the actual true children of the Israelites are. And they tell you, if you go deep into it, like Esau told you, I'm gonna slay my brother Jacob, right? But you gotta understand on a bigger scale, the Romans who kicked out the original Romans, which are Etruscans, which
were darker people. Etruscans are darker.
Exactly. So they renamed themselves. So they renamed themselves the Romans, and that's when they took over their heritage. And that's why it says in the book, they are the Romans now are the true Edomites, which they took over to kill the Hamashiach.
Facts.
But you got to understand, yes, he was killed by the Edomites, but he also did it because he had to die for his own sins and for us to get our status back, which is, we did a video on that one too. So that's how you explain the crucifixion. Like I said, you got to understand, we don't follow the days as everybody else. That's the Gregorian calendar. They messed up the days anyways when they was doing 8 days in Greece, and they threw that off. So we follow the moon. Think about it. How are we going to have a calendar in the wilderness? You think Moses was like, hey,
no,
what's today? Monday?
Not at all.
Cool. It's the beginning no. They went by the moon. That's what you go by the moon. And if you want us to do a breakdown of the Sabbath and things like that, I mean, we got posts and things like that. If you want the documents for it, hey, let us know.
We'll send it to you.
Yeah, it's not really much to do a video on it because it's going to be like 10 minutes long.
What we will do, when we get all together, we're planning on to shoot a video of the Sabbath service. When we all together, so y'all see how it's supposed to be done correctly.
Yeah, so we got the ceremony, the ceremony and things like that as well. And then we also got documents on the actual tree that he died on, if you want to read more in depth on his crucifixion. But that's why it's important to educate yourself and understand that, the Edomite's not going to do nothing but lie and throw you off. You got to understand, we follow monotheism. He only chose the Israelites, which is Amos 3:1. And 2, he tells you he only, followed the Israelites. And the other ones, you got to understand, they're not with us. So you're not going to learn anything in church because Christianity is a denomination of Roman Catholicism, which is just a denomination of paganism. So that's where you get all that stuff from.
Facts. And it's really nothing. It's just to keep you confused and in that loop. Small hats created all these different religions and all these different sect groups to keep people in this constant loop of confusion because they don't want you to realize what's really going on around you.
Yeah, you're worshiping Satan. So all these religions, Christianity, all this nonsense,
they all lead to the same road. That's why you think the Pope says all religions worship the same God, because they do. They worship the same entity. It's not the entity of the God of the Israelites. It's the entity of the God of the world, which is Baal.
That's why he tells you it's nothing new. Cush. Exactly, it's nothing new under the sun. So when you understand that 3, person doctrine, the Holy Trinity, that's BS. If you read the Bible and you study it, then you understand it's between the Most High and His children.
Exactly. There's no God beside Him. No God behind Him. It's only Him. It's only Yahweh.
So people don't understand. But that's also why we do away with the sacrificial laws too, because the Hamashiach was the ultimate sacrifice.
Exactly.
You know, he was the lamb, and it happened on Passover. You see the coincidence? People got to understand the coincidence and the symbology behind that. Yeah, it goes over the head.
But another thing I wanted to touch on, just like Brother Darren was giving y'all a little history lesson about the Etruscans, is that the Most High, he lets you know, and he tells you that in Jeremiah 49:10 that he made Esau barren, that he's going to uncover his secret places. What Esau has done is he has went to different countries and started renaming places and started renaming them after him. So that's where you get America and all these different places. So that's why it's hard to really sift through the real history of what it is. Just like Brother Dan was talking about earlier, the Romans were first black, the first Grecians were first black. But what happened is Esau, Alexander the Great, took over a lot of these lands and started renaming them and recultivating them in their own likeness. So now when people go back to them, they only have the understanding that this all has been is Esau dominance, and that's not the truth. Just like with the fake Jews and that fake state right there. People, if they never read the Bible and never even listened to what we're talking about, they would think that the real Jew is so-called Esau. But in a matter of fact, the truth is that if you read deeper into it, they reveal themselves. They expose themselves all the time because they don't even follow the actual guidelines that are in this book for them to follow. They don't follow none of the holy days.
They follow the Talmud, which is backwards.
Yeah. So, I mean, he lets you know because they expose themselves. Very easy.
Yeah, so that was just a short lesson. If
I'll let
you
you continue.
Huh? What'd you say?
I'll let you finish it. Continue. I'll let you continue. Finish up.
Ain't got nothing else to say.
Oh, you go ahead. I got another verse I'm pull up.
Oh, go ahead then, cause I ain't got nothing really else. I mean, you just gotta understand. You gotta look at the history of things of things. You know, if you have questions about anything, I mean, we won't mind answering them for you, because that's all we do is really look at research and things like that. So you just gotta understand that the small hats, the AKA the Ashkenazi Jews, they just follow the opposite. So you gotta understand, just like with the so-called Renaissance. The Renaissance just means rebirth. So what happened was the Edomites got back into power through Alexander, you know, the Macedonian, which was an Edomite. You know, he's the grandson of, you know, the Ashkenazi people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
you look at that word, the Macedonian, and you go back in their bloodline, it links directly to Edomite.
Exactly. So you just got to do your research. It's not what you type in. You just got to dig a little bit deeper. Like I said, if you want history, I can send you a few videos. And Brother Perry's got a whole playlist on Hebrews. You know, it's
I got a whole. It's just sitting there, man. Y'all need to watch it, man. It's a whole playlist of history lessons, man. Everything y'all ask me, it be right there. And there's nothing I want to touch on. Just like I was saying, how Esau went around taking over countries, just like he was saying, Alexander the Great went over taking over different land mass and renaming them as himself. Even the Most High says this in the Bible in Psalms 49:11. Their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places all generations. They call their lands after their own name. So that just lets you know, just like America and Africa, they're both named after Greek pioneers. And they basically, I got you in the DM. I'll send it when we get done. So, but basically, that is letting you know that these states were constructed by Esau Edom from their inception. Because if I go back and I show you maps, they call this place America the Promised Land, the land of milk and honey. So when did it get changed to America? When somebody came over here and took over and renamed it. So they would lay claim to the land.
It was Azeroth before.
Azariah.
Yeah. And people not understand, but that's also how you tie in the Native Americans.
And we got that in another video for another day. But I just want to touch on that, man. You can close it out. We don't hit all the points.
Exactly. All right, so before we leave, we want to give all praise, power, glory, and thanks to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Kakadash. Double honors to the elders, the prophets, the apostles, the wise men, our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Salutations to the hopeful elect that are out there pushing the truth to the four corners of the earth, risking their lives and freedom to do so. To them, we say Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah. All right, man.